who has been the biggest surprise in Big 12 basketball this year? And where does the conference go football-wise from here? Who is going to run this conference? I decided to talk with Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12, a little crossover edition of Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from ESPN Central Texas. That is Cameron Stewart from ESPN Central Texas and the Drake Toll Show. Thank you for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. Look, today let's talk about... Yeah?
I don't do a Locked On show, do I?
Baylor? Are you the Baylor guy?
Oh, dang. You're right. You're right.
Let's talk some Texas Tech and TCU and Baylor and BYU and Utah and Arizona. The state of the Big 12 right now, where it goes from here. Because look, the way that I would describe the Big 12 as it sits, and I want perspectives from other hosts across the channel, it's the fun league. It's the league that, we have the Jumbotron in New York plays the Big 12 championship game. And the WWE, is it Brock Lesnar or somebody? Who is the guy that Undertaker?
Sure.
The Death Bringer who brings out the
Undertaker,
the Quinn Ewers, holds the belt. And,
you can't say it's not funsies, man. You can't say it's not funsies.
Country Guy national anthem. Oh, say, can you see? Does that,
Truck, stop.
Are we as a conference so far behind the punch between the SEC and the Big Ten that this has got to be what the brand is? I mean, as it is, the state of the Big 12 after 2023, where is this league in terms of the rest of college football?
I mean, that is. It's just going to be the fun league. And I think that's what Yormark was going for. And even Bob Bowlesby a little bit when they first brought in these new four was just, hey, we're going to kind of have this region for the most part, but it's really going to be fun. And like in the good years, we're going to have good teams beating up on each other. Kind of like what we saw last year, 2022. No one ends up being this great team in the Big 12, but they were all kind of beating each other, which was opposed to this year where it was Texas and OU, and then everyone was beating each other, but they weren't that good. Yeah. So, I think that's kind of what this is now.
Wait a second. So for the amount of time that I talked about parity on this show and how the conference had a lot of parity, you would push back and say, yes, outside of Texas and Oklahoma.
Well, I knew the point you were making, but Texas and OU were so far ahead of everyone this year, I thought, and I thought that played out in the Big 12 championship game. Whereas 2022, it was kind of every man for themselves. Even TCU, who was undefeated and obviously in the playoff and didn't even need to win the Big 12 to get there, they weren't blowing everybody out. I mean, there were stretches of this season where Texas and OU weren't breaking a sweat. No. So, they lost a couple games, though, collectively. So I can't say they were, both just elite. But, I mean, Texas was elite.
I give Texas.
Yes, Texas was elite. Oklahoma. And I think this is purely an eye test thing. And I hate both these schools, so there's no bias here. But I think Texas, top to bottom, this year was more impressive in just about any way that TCU was in 2022. No disrespect to TCU. Of course, they had a great team. They make it to the national championship game, but there was no doubt throughout this year that if Texas played to their abilities, which they did, they were going to be a top 4 team. So, so still some parity there, but I think less this year than there was last year. That's all.
But now the two teams you've honed in on as the big dogs are gone. And one of those big dogs didn't even make the conference championship game. Instead, it was Oklahoma State, who did get boat raced in said conference championship game, which wasn't a shock to anybody. That's what on paper was supposed to happen. And it's exactly what Texas did en route to going to a college football playoff. So now let's go with the next man, the ACC. If the Big Ten and the SEC are out of reach and you start to accept that, unless you get a brand that brings in $150 million plus a year, you're not going to be in conversation, especially from a TV standpoint, viewership standpoint, and that's where the big money is of the Big Ten and the SEC. Maybe the ACC. Where do you put the Big 12, state of the Big 12, compared to that conference at the end of this year?
In terms of the ACC, you're talking about that comparison?
Correct.
Yeah, Big 12 is in a much better spot.
Yeah.
Much better spot. I know you've talked about this on the show. I mean, the ACC is in trouble here because of
right here,
college
River City.
Because of what the college football playoff committee said of I know everyone's saying, well, Alabama was the one that went in over Florida State. Well, so did Texas, who also had a loss. Florida State did not. And they said, the SEC and the Big Ten are on their own plane, but this conference is better than yours. Florida State, man, if you played in the Big 12 and you were undefeated, you're in, no problem. Yeah. But you didn't. You played the ACC. You played Miami, and you played Boston College, and that's what they were saying. Whether it's true or not, the powers that be in college football think the Big 12 is better right now, albeit with it being Texas and that brand. But the Big 12 body of work is better than what the ACC is, and I think that leads to the point of, should Florida State look at the Big Ten? Should these ACC schools look to go elsewhere and consolidate with the Big 12? So yeah, I think it's crazy to think back a year and a half ago to think that I would be saying this, but yeah, the Big 12 is in a much better spot, even without Texas and OU, than the ACC is right now. Yeah, go ahead.
And even
give a question
so this just got into, and I steered it into a comparison game between the Big 12 and other conferences, and that's less of the state of the Big 12 and more of the state of the Big 12 in comparison to everybody else.
Right.
If you are a BYU fan, if you're a UCF fan, if you're a Baylor fan, if you're a Texas Tech fan, how do you feel about the current Big 12? And does that vary a large amount based on where your fan allegiance lies?
Honestly, I think basically all the fan bases in the Big 12, just from a fan perspective, are like, heck yeah, man, let's do this. Because, and we'll talk about this, I think, in the next segment, but I think it's pretty wide open. The fans can't control how the nation perceives the conference, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, it's better than the ACC, but of course, both those conferences are way below the SEC and the Big Ten, the poll that they have. And so, overall, is it a great spot? It's okay. But from a fan perspective, and I'm thinking long term here, I like where it's at because it's still going to be respected enough. It's always going to be the third best out of these four major that we have left. It's pretty firmly going to be in third, I think, and it's open enough that each fan base is looking at the next 5 to 10 years and thinking, I like this. I like this a lot.
Even Baylor?
Even Baylor.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Not as much as some of the other ones, sure.
That's a lot
but even Baylor, even Cincinnati, even UCF.
Now, outside looking in then, when it comes to a Utah and Arizona State and Colorado, for those schools, how do you think they view the Big 12? What's the state when it comes to those guys? Because from their outside looking in, I bet a few of them are pretty excited to win right away.
Yeah, I think I'm trying not to get into the comparison game again, but right. I think if you're one of those fans, you got to think, well, what was the other option? Big Ten didn't want us. This conference that they were in is gone and would have had zero relevance even if those teams stayed. But yeah, I think some of them are excited to get in there right away, like a Utah, even a Colorado with the bravado that they've had. Jed Fish staying in Arizona, they got to like it too, because they think, okay, we're in a major 3, even though the world perceives it as a major 2, and we can come in and win and establish ourselves in this conference. So yeah, I think they got to be excited, if nothing else, for the fact that their conference that they're in this very day is done. It's toast. It's gone. Fugazi. Wave to it. Bye, Charlie.
Let's talk a bit about
Let's do it.
Who's in position to run the league now? Is it Oklahoma State after a trip to the Big 12 championship? Is it a BYU or a UCF? Is it one of these new teams who's not that new? Or is it a brand new team like a Colorado or a Utah? You've seen the Buffs have reloaded. We'll go there next. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. FanDuel is the place that I go to make money. I call it passive income. I sit on my couch. I put $10 on this, $10 on that, and bam, it hits. I go to Shot Quality. Shot Quality is my favorite place to go in college basketball. And I saw yesterday that I thought Duke was going to win. I thought Oregon was going to win. Sam Houston, Louisiana Tech, Texas Tech, Wright State, UAB. I play the points. I take the points, and I say, all right, this point, and that point, and that point, and that point. I go to FanDuel, and I parlay these things together. Now, look, some of these are wild, like minus 600 money line. I take 3 minus 250. 250 here, minus 300 here, minus 550 here. I'm very confident these three teams are going to win. If I can build it to plus money, plus 100, plus 110, I put $25 on it at FanDuel. It hits, I make $25. Most of the time, if I can figure out who's going to win these games, my home favorites who are going to win, I can make money at FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So you put $5 on Oregon's money line in college basketball, and you win $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. Spreads, player props, over-unders, parlays, and more. FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official sports partner of the NFL. All right, Mr. Stewart, I presume. Yes?
I just sent you a great Sydney Sweeney tweet, by the way.
Thank you.
After the show. Fully clothed, all good.
Who's in position to run the league moving forward? If you think about Colorado coming in, I am, and that's who I hone in on right here. Colorado beefs up the offensive line. You see, there's a TikTok that came out of a guy explaining how he got cut and how he walked into the coach's office and Deion was like, all right, you're cut. And then he walked out. This is a sob story that happens at every college in America.
Yeah,
just making supposed to make Deion look bad of, you got cut. You got cut from a 1-11 team, buddy. That's what's going to happen.
I think there are some fan bases in the Big 12 that hoped their coach would do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Positive attrition.
Baylor.
Positive attrition there. And yeah,
it sucks, but it's college sports, right?
A backbone from Deion. Yeah, you were not a good player on a very bad team. I am bringing good players to make a better team.
Especially in this era, man, where they can go anywhere. They're not gonna want for opportunity if they're playing at a school like Colorado or even a Baylor. But yeah.
Do you think it's Colorado? Is that the team then that you point to, even after going 4-8? The way this offseason has gone, I look at them and say, yeah, it's dangerous. Because there's a lot of 4- and 5-star stuff going on.
Yeah,
there.
Can't deny the talent. But then again, they had a good portal season last year. Not as good as this year, but had a good portal season and go 4-8. And you and I, living in the Brazos Valley, know that the recruiting class of 4- and 5-stars only gets you so far. Ask our man Jimbo Fisher. It only gets you so far. Ask the Texas Longhorns before this year. It only gets you so far. And so I like the class they've brought in. I think Deion probably is a good coach, but we don't know that at this level yet. And it's just one season, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know that yet. So Colorado, it's maybe in the top 5 of teams of programs that I'm worried about in the new Big 12.
So then today, if you've got to make a way too early Big 12, and I get it, right? We're not going to see the transfer portal and how that shakes out. And Kansas State has lost almost 20 guys, and Cincinnati 25 guys, and we're seeing guys come in and out. But as of today, I think it's tough to look at the talent of Colorado and not put them on the top half of the Big 12 despite 4-8.
Yeah, top half, yeah. You mentioned the Kansas State loses a lot. Their biggest rivals don't. I like Kansas a lot. Oklahoma State hasn't lost a lot. Now, granted, they haven't had dynamite recruiting classes.
What? I've seen 7 posts that Ollie Gordon has left.
Every day, Ollie Gordon is leaving. And until he actually does leave, they're in a good spot.
All from @on4 or @267 on Twitter.
And I would put Colorado at best the second best team that's coming in that quad. I think Utah, obviously their program is incredible.
What about Arizona?
Last decade. And Arizona had an excellent year. And it looks like Jed Fish, looks like he is. He's staying.
Yep.
So right now, at best, they're second, but I don't put them ahead of Arizona, even with that recruiting class. So yeah, Colorado, I think, is going to be a good team in the next half decade. With Deion.
Arizona's a top 15 team in America.
Yeah, but Arizona's damn good, man.
People forget. And then talk about we're stirring
kind of out of and sleeping giant. As much as Colorado's a sleeping giant, Arizona
I think you mean
absolutely
Sleepy Joe,
is too.
But yes.
I know we're in, this is Big 12 country. This is a sleeping giant at Arizona. They were just waiting for the right guy to be there, and it looks like Jed Fish might be the right guy.
Stir in the pot.
Stir the pot. Let's do it.
UCF comes in, Cincinnati comes in, Houston comes in, BYU come in. They all weren't ready to compete.
They all stunk. Two of them lost to Baylor.
Yes.
Which is not a good sign at all.
Who is the worst team in the Big 12. They were not ready to compete. They didn't come from the Power 5. The closest you can make a case for is BYU because they played a lot of Power 5 teams, or enough Power 5 teams and independents. None of them were ready for the gauntlet that is the Power 5 schedule. And despite their pleas, we went to the college football playoff, or we won our conference championship, or we've been to New Year's Six Bowl, which many of them can boast. There was or national championships. There was a learning curve this year. Does that happen for these 4 new teams coming from another Power 5 conference that has been a lot weaker than the Big 12 recently?
I doubt it.
By the way, Massey ratings. This isn't just it was not weaker. The Pac-12 had way more better teams this year. No. Over the last 5 years, the Big 12 is rated second or third best in America based on the Power 5 conferences. Much better than the Pac-12.
Yeah, and I would say before this past year, which the Pac-12 was good, that conference was about on par with the American, which is where those other teams are coming from. The UCF and Cincinnati, that's where they were coming from, right? And Houston too. Yep. So I doubt it because 2 of those teams that are coming in are legitimate top 20 teams in Arizona and Utah. And the success that Utah has had over the last decade or whatever it is under Kyle Whittingham is undeniable. But having that battle-tested year this year in the Pac-12 is big. And I do think, as much as I hate playing the brand game, those teams, those programs have brands that the other ones that came in other than BYU didn't really have. And so they come in with already a more stacked deck in the transfer portal era of who they can bring in year to year. And that's another thing too. I also think the 4 that were brought in this year just weren't at great positions anyway in a 5-year window, if you will. None of them were like, we are ready to win now. Thank God we're going to the big conference. Like, here we go. We're going to make some noise this year. I don't think any of those teams were positioned that way. So I don't think they really disappointed too much. But 2 of these 4 teams that are coming in next year are absolutely in that position, and maybe a third with Colorado when you talk about the hype that's coming in.
Yep.
So I do think these new guys do better.
Just saw the tweet that you sent me. Bonk. Coming up, basketball. There have been some big surprises. BYU, not the least of these, and net. Let's go through the net in the Big 12. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by our valued sponsors over at LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I told you yesterday, if you email me, drake.c.toll@gmail.com, I'm going to give you a shot at being an intern. I'm always hiring an intern, and Baylor's not doing the next semester, so I'd love some help. But then I got some emails. I haven't responded to them yet. I'm going to respond to them, and I'm just going to send them the link of LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They got a million professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy. 86% of small businesses get a great candidate, qualified candidate, within 24 hours. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege, linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Keep in mind that terms and conditions do apply. Basketball, they're playing
is my
basketball.
Favorite sport.
I do like the way they dribble up and down the court.
Yeah, I listened to that today.
It's a great point. It's like I'm the king on the microphone, so is Dr. J. And Moses Malone.
2-time MVP Moses Malone.
Not to be confused with Carl. Not to be confused with Carl. Much worse person.
I'm a fan of the Moses guy more.
How about the Big 12 basketball gauntlet here, that you look down the teams, everybody that's good, being led by BYU, kind of. Houston's at number 1, but BYU out of nowhere. Houston, I don't want to say out of nowhere. We knew they'd be good, but they're already the number 1 team, number 2 team in the net in America, and number 1 in the Big 12. BYU is number 3 in America. Baylor up there in the top 10 as well. And these teams have a little bit, some arm's length away from even a Kansas. Oklahoma is a lot better than expected. Even the teams like a Cincinnati, even the teams we thought wouldn't necessarily be the top of this league right now, according to the metric that gives us March, the Big 12 is stupid good.
I think it might be the best single season of a conference we might have ever seen.
Ever?
If this plays out.
What about the Big East in the 90s, huh?
Big East was fantastic.
Here they come.
Fantastic. But I think and look, this happens every year, Drake. A couple of teams stand out in the preseason before the conference games start, and then they start playing a Big 12 schedule, and it falls apart. But I've actually gotten a chance to watch both BYU and Oklahoma this year. I don't think they're going to wilt like that. Yeah. They might not, they're not going to be undefeated. I don't know that they're going to be, in the top 25 the whole rest of the way. But I think these are solid teams, man.
Very experienced. BYU's
yes.
A bunch of 25-year-olds.
Yeah, that helps, man. And I really like Porter Moser at OU. So I think this is going to be one of the best conferences seasons we've ever seen. One that's already slipped up is the Texas Longhorns, but I still think that's a really solid team. And this top three, all three of them can win the national championship. Like this is like the Cranberries top three. The Cranberries, the band, their top three is as good as any rock band ever. The Big 12 is going to be that. They're going to have Oklahoma, 3 teams in the top 5.
BYU, Cincinnati.
Yes, exactly.
All have a shot
for sure. For sure not Houston, Baylor, and Kansas.
What is the deal? So again, looking at Net, it's nuts.
And what's the deal with
Net loves themselves some Big 12s at shot quality. A little different.
Ken Palm loves the Big 12 because of Fran Fraschilla.
Yes,
as we've heard in the past, Fran Fraschilla has a lot of influence on the Ken Palm rankings.
At shot quality, which a lot of college coaches actually trust to give metrics, they rank teams with a weight on defense because defense travels. Defense wins championships. Mm-hmm. And that's the case in college basketball. Usually your best three-point shooting team in America struggles at some point in March, and if you can't play defense and you're having an off night shooting, you're going to lose. They have Iowa State at number 1 in the Big 12 and number 1 defensively in the country. Houston at number 4 defensively in the country and BYU at number 5. Those 3 teams make up the top 3 in the Big 12. Baylor coming in at 4 because the offense is so good, but the defense ranks 51st in America per shot quality. Cincinnati, Kansas State, and then you get to Kansas. Then West Virginia is right in there, and Texas Tech, and Texas.
West Virginia, who stinks.
Yeah, and Texas is all the way at the bottom. So according to shot quality, which is one of the best metrics in America, the Big 12 is even deeper than it might look on the surface, or even deeper than Net's going to tell you. And you mentioned a chance at a national championship. What's your whole week 6 top 12 AP thing? What's this all about?
Yeah, so we talked about this, I think, off the air during the show yesterday. But it's the teams that are in the top 12 in week 6. I think the last 15 years, since the national since 04, so 20 years here, the national champion has been in the top 12 in week 6 every year. And the Big 12 has 4.
Place your future bets. Well, Arizona, if we want to include.
I'm going to include them.
Arizona at 1, then Kansas at 2, Purdue, Houston at 4. So that's already 2. Kansas and Houston. UConn at 5, Baylor at 6, Marquette at 7, Creighton at 8, North Carolina 9, Gonzaga 10. They're Big 12, right? 11, yeah, sure. Oklahoma, and 12, Tennessee. So that is Oklahoma, Baylor, Houston, and Kansas, as well as a couple of new Big 12 teams that could all win a national championship based on the last 18
and the Big 12
years.
And the Big 12 is so good, Drake, and we give so little to the AP poll and whatever that I think there's a team outside of that could also make the Final Four in the Big 12. I don't know who it is yet. Don't ask me who it is.
The BYU Cougars?
Yeah, why not? Throw them a bone.
They're old, man.
Is Oklahoma State, are they banning themselves again? They could be there.
They're having a tough go at it. They're having a tough go at it. Be nice.
They're saving their best basketball for March.
Northwestern's number 25 in America right now. BYU at 18, Texas at 19. It's just
still their coach.
It is who? Northwestern?
Chris Collins, is he still their coach?
I think you're thinking of Chris Collins' work. He's at NBC, but
no, stop.
Now here's a guy.
About Duke great Chris Collins.
Is that right?
Yeah. Associate HD for Krzyzewski for a long time.
I think based on everything we've given you, the Big 12 is good at basketball. Even if Cincinnati, as we speak, is struggling against.
And by the way, this is just my gift to you, the Big 12 listener, because you can't see it in the stats.
Yeah,
Baylor is going to have a top 25 defense by the end of the year. Which, with the way they play offensively, is going to be scary. I think between 20 and 25 was where that 2021 team was defensively.
Yeah,
which you just remember for being a great defensive team.
Yeah.
but they were not number
elite.
one.
By the way, top 25
For
in
sure.
college basketball. Out of there's 360 teams.
Yeah.
You get to be elite in that tier, top 25.
Absolutely. But watching Houston play defense under Kelvin Sampson the last couple years, man, I know you're a hog at heart. That's what the 40 minutes of hell must have looked like. I mean, it is just a sea of arms. It is.
They're going to need LJ Cryer to elevate defensively, though.
Yeah. Which we said for 3 straight years, it didn't happen. So
good luck with that. Great. Just super quickly. Great LJ Cryer aside. I did tweet about a week before he goes to Houston. LJ Cryer has visited Houston in serious talks with the I heard from a source. He was in serious talks to go to Houston. His mother and father retweeted it with like, this is so wrong, incorrect. This guy is lying to everybody. And then LJ comments back to them, yo, don't even listen to this clown or don't even respond to this clown. Within 6 days, LJ Cryer, the Houston Cougar. And I love, there are all these people of course they'd be in my mentions, be like, oh, this guy is an idiot. Why would you report this? It's false reporting. They would stick
great.
up for the guy's parents.
They love seeing that the players get it on because they all think you're a clown anyway. So
yeah, so you're like, oh, yeah, this guy sucks. And then he's just off to Houston. But no one ever remembers the guy that was right. They only remember the one who reported it and the parents tried to pick a fight and it was just not. So it was great because I responded with, so you were telling me that LJ Cryer has not visited Houston, and there was not really the response was, this is just a lie. You're like, okay.
The kid can shoot.
If you like Cameron, follow him at RealCamStewart on Twitter. If you don't like him, well, that makes 2 of us.
Join the club.
That makes 2 of us. Listen to Cameron on the Drake Toll Show from 12 to 2 every day on ESPN Central Texas. This has been always
Locked On Baylor, which is your second listen every day.
That's right. Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande. Baylor. You want anything?
Bears.
All right, fine.